us. No one likes us. No one likes us. We don't care. We are Millwall. Super Millwall. We are Millwall from the dead.
Hello and welcome to the first No One Likes Us Talking podcast of the 2018-2019 season. My name is Joe Amphlett and I've got them all back. I've got Graeme, I've got the Ted, and I've got the Georgie boy. We are all ready to go for a new season. Well, we've already started. Boys, it's a pleasure to see you and have you here.
And you, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
One or two of us look like we've gone already. I don't know about ready to go, Joe, but we give it a go, shall we?
Yes, let's do that, Ted. Now, we left you in May thinking about who the Lions might recruit in the summer, and by the time the main transfer window closed on August the 9th, which I think's unfair to the Football League sides, to be honest, we completed these following signings, right? Left-footed centre-back Scunthorpe, Murray Wallace. We also loaned goalkeeper Ben Amos, who did all right last night in that shootout. And from Brighton, Jiri Skalak. Have I said that right?
Yep. No,
nearest damage, Joe,
yeah,
I think.
Bouncing check.
And we, of course, boys, we rebuffed various bids for Jake Cooper from Rangers. They went as high as $3 million. I was very proud of the club that we stood firm and said no. And we also stood firm against Villa and Borough. They offered high as $10 million for our midfield duo of Saville and Jed Wallace. For me, boys, and I know I'm going off script here, Graeme, I'm sorry. If we had sold those two players to Middlesbrough, I think we'll be dead certs for fighting a relegation battle. As it stands, with the signings we've brought in and the start of the season as we've had it, boys, are we heading in the right direction? Where are we going to finish? Are we in a relegation battle? What's going on? Are we happy?
No, well, I still think we need a striker, Joe.
You didn't think he was going to say he was happy then, Joe,
and
did you?
know-
Well, I was hoping you'd come in first, Ted, and not Graeme.
He was itching to get in there.
Well, we need a striker.
Yeah.
We now have a possibility of loaning with a view to a permanent in January. We wasted an amount of time chasing after Ben Marshall, I think, and we wasted an amount of time chasing after Tom Bradshaw. We maybe should have gone to earlier other targets earlier. But, I do think, and looking at last night's result and the Blackburn result, that we are going to need some more power up front.
I think what we need to think about, Joe, is that the fact that Borough are looking at our players and offering that amount of money, it comes with the territory of the fact that we're actually doing really well. We've got a side that's worth money. We've got a side that's worth their position in the Championship.
And in the past, we've usually sold those sort of players.
Exactly. I was just going to say, what the nice thing is that I assume Mr. Berylson, bless him, has turned around and gone, no, that's not enough. We value them at more money. I was talking to someone the other day and we was talking about values and whatever. And when you see other players being sold out of the Championship that, we've played against, and you think, hold on a minute, I've got to play in the same position as that, he's got to be worth a lot more. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some players are going for 10, 15 million pounds. Well, if they're worth that, then our players are worth that. There's not a team in the country that hasn't got a player that isn't worth something. You know what I mean? And there is a line that they will sell them. Even Man United will sell a player if somebody comes in with a bid that they think's worth it. So the fact that we're saying no to it, the pleasing part about it is that if we do sell anyone, we're going to get money for them, proper money, not just as we all know that we've been selling in the past.
On the other side of that, though, Ted, should we not be breaking the bank for the first time ever and try and pay a little bit more than what we usually pay?
We have this every year, Joe, about transfers and that. It's such a complicated thing. The Ben Marshall thing that Graeme said, I mean, by all accounts, we bid 1.2 million and it was done, sort of thing, to a certain extent. But then Norwich came in and blew us out of water in some form or the other to do with a deal, Do
you reckon it was wages? And because for me, Marshall owed us a little bit of... he owed us one because he weren't playing at Wolves, was he? So
no,
we've brought him in and he's done very well for us. We put him in the shop window and all of a sudden he's got a nice cushy deal and left us.
I think part of the problem, Joe, is Neil's built his team with the work ethic, the attitude that everyone's in it together, we're all part and parcel. We had Stevie Morrison come out last season and say basically there's not much difference between top and bottom with their wages and whatever. If we bring someone in that's way above that, which is a possibility if you're spending £2 or £3 million, that whoever that guy would be, he would want that much more. I don't want that person to come in at the detriment of what the team and the team spirit is, if you know what I mean. So it is a dilemma because at the end of the day, we all know money should buy you quality. Let's put it that way. I mean, as a club, we tend to be better with people that we get out of non-league than we are with people we pay money for.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you go that way, non-league and that, it tends to be a bit of a gamble.
All part of being a grown-up club, isn't it, Ted? Really?
It is. Really,
I mean, you've got to be able to handle those situations and get above them.
Well, we're in situations.
If we don't, we start to deteriorate. I don't think you can stand still in football.
No.
I think you've got to progress your squad. Because you start going down.
That's part of what I'm saying, Graeme. We're finding ourselves now in an entirely different sort of situation than we've been in for a few years because of our success, because of the success of the players that we brought in, i.e. the likes of Jake and Jed and George Saville. Let's face it, these guys couldn't play or couldn't get a game at the sides that they was at, but they've come to us and become proper championship players that people want to buy. So we have become a little bit of a victim of our success in that respect, but let's face it, at the moment we've not lost anyone. So,
Georgie, let's bring you in. Are you happy with the business we've done, or was you left a little bit dissatisfied?
Well, I was disappointed about Marshall.
I was.
I think I hear the points you're making, Joe, but see, I think as soon as we let any other championship club come in, especially big clubs like Norwich, they're going to pay him, 1.5 times what we was, possibly twice as much. We've had it. We're finished, What we should have done with Marshall, if it was possible, was to tie him up really early, like at the end of last season or something, but when nobody knew about him too much, when we had him in our own camp and that's how we used to do business, a long time ago. But it seems that that's maybe not quite the way. I wonder about the centre half. I mean, we seem to have a lot of centre halves, but maybe you can't ever have too many centre halves. I don't know, but I go along with Graeme. I think we may well be short in the forward line, and that bothers me.
Well, I thought we were short in the forward line last season, and I thought, taking away nothing from what Morrison and Gregory did last season. They were fantastic. But can you imagine? I don't think we would have done as well as we did last year if one of them had picked up an injury. Now, I feel under prepared with just them two leading the line again. I don't think Elliott is good enough as a replacement if one of those gets a bad injury. Would we agree with that? I mean, we were lucky not to get injuries to our two main strikers last year.
You need Aidan O'Brien to step up. If you're going to keep that set, you need him to step up. He can't do this little cameo roles. Yeah, he scores goals. And we say, what are you talking about? He scores goals, but what else does he offer? And do you think you could put him on and get a vital goal in the last 10 minutes? I can't see that.
I think he's been inconsistent. I think he's shown some brilliance at times, O'Brien. But I agree, Graeme. I think that he needs to step up to the plate and be consistent every week. Make sure he's in that starting lineup and be getting goals more often.
Do you know what I think, Joe? My problem about what you're talking about is if either Lee Gregory or Steve Morrison goes outside for whatever reason, it's their partnership that's so good. I mean, neither of them scored a lot of goals last year, but they helped to create a lot of goals because they are a partnership that worries defences. What I've seen when either one of them's not playing, there don't seem to be the connection with the two front men that them two have got. So I think it's actually a double up, if you know what I mean. I've seen Tom Elliott come on. He's a different player to Steve Morrison and line up alongside Lee Gregory at times and that. And he's not a Steve Morrison. And Steve Morrison, forget about what he does. It's his leadership that is such important as well. But it's that partnership. What I'd like to see is to be sure that whoever comes in continues along the line with a partnership with whoever else is there, because it's vital to us.
Let's take a look at that first game, opening game of the season against Middlesbrough. They should have been dead and buried, shouldn't they, Middlesbrough? And defensive frailties cost us. Who got it wrong that day, Graeme? Was it the manager? Was it his substitutions? What was wrong?
We've just been talking about bringing players in, all right? And I think another key addition is Ben Amos. I think anybody that looked at him last night, he's confident, he was catching the ball. We look out from what Jordan Archer did in that first game, which he rectified against Blackburn to some extent, was that he wasn't claiming his area. The defence then started collapsing back on him. He didn't have enough work to operate in. They then go up the field and they get for their equalised. They get a deflected old goal, and 9 times out of 10, if you're defending that deep, then that ball's going to fall to a Middlesbrough player. It's going to, so as likely as that. So I think it came from the goalkeeper. Yeah, we should have been clearing our lines better, but there wasn't a lot of confidence. But what I think Ben Amos will do is looking, I think Jordan Archer now, well, the way he played at Blackburn, he had a magnificent game by all accounts at Blackburn. I didn't go up there, but he was commanding his area a little bit more, and I think that's one of the major features Jordan Archer's has got to get over.
Well, the other thing was, I mean, there was a couple of errors, Joe, like Marlon Romeo for the first goal. Instead of just oofing it out, some reason seemed to want to take a touch in the penalty area and lost the ball. I would question what happened for the second one, because what I couldn't understand is when that ball came out of the box, when I think it was headed out from the long throw, the guy on the edge of the box was all on his own. If we'd had a man marking him, he wouldn't have got that shot in that ricocheted around in the box and finished up going in the back of the net. And I never understand that, because whether you've got a corner or the opposition have got a corner or a long frame like that, if the defending team win the ball, there's only one place it's going to go, and that's to the edge of the box. So there should always be someone around there, and that guy had time. He didn't even control it properly. It bounced up, but he had time still to get the ball back into the box.
Too deep. We were defending too deep. That's what happened, wasn't it?
Well,
so it's up to the goalkeeper to push them out, or
they
had
to defend deep, Graeme, because it was a long throw. But what I'm saying, you do your marking. There's the marking to be done. And there was nobody, if you watch that back, there was nobody anywhere near that guy on the edge of the box. There should have been someone close enough to have closed him down or hurried him into trying to do something. Instead, he could fumble the ball around and then get his shot away. Listen, it's late in the game. Neil had made a couple of changes. Maybe they lost their who should be marking who. I don't know. But the bottom line is you have to take a positive out of it. And we was by far a better side than the side that are going to be up there at the end of the season.
But I always hate it at the start of a season when that was 3 points up for grabs.
Yeah.
When you're just going on and you haven't had that win yet, and you're seeing other teams. Even Rotherham got a win, didn't they? The other day.
Yeah.
And you think, I thought they might be relegation in trouble, but they've already got 3 points. And just the longer it goes on, it was like last season. It took till February to get that away victory, and then we just went on an incredible away run. It was fantastic. So I'm always apprehensive. Do you know what I mean? I've always got a bit of anxiety about getting that 3 points.
If you can play that well, Joe, for what? I mean, it wasn't
87 minutes. 87 minutes.
It wasn't to the end of the game that they started pushing us back. I think it bodes well, if I'm honest.
Let me ask you another little question here.
Is it a little one though, Graham? Because only a little one.
Only a little one.
Because we've got Simon Jordan's going to come and speak to us.
He's only got a little one.
Only a little one. Yeah.
Good.
Neil Harris' substitutions. Does he make them too late?
No. What I don't like, and I will be saying this to Neil on the fans forum on Thursday. I said to Neil a long time ago about having a plan B. And the plan B in today's age, we play 4-4-2. You bring a third centre half in and you move your full-backs up in it. Whenever we bring a third centre half on, which we did at the end of that game, Murray Wallace, it seems to be a negative move. It seems to be to invite teams onto us. You know what I'm saying?
He does it to hold the result, doesn't he?
I don't. I mean, that just seems to
That's
be the
right,
wrong.
as long as you don't
He did bring Tom Elliott on, but Tom Elliott couldn't adjust to the pace of the game quite clearly.
Even then, he brought Tom Elliott on for Lee Gregory. When Tom Elliott, to me, is a straightforward swap with Steve Morrison. I didn't really understand that. If you was going to take Lee Gregory off, then bring Fred on with a bit of pace who could get in behind. And I'm just saying sometimes the substitutions leave a little bit to be desired with me, but. More importantly, like that movement to a free centre half seems to be every time that we do it, it's about inviting somebody onto us, and we're going to just try and hang on. You know what I'm saying? Rather than being a positive sort of.
And if you are 2-1 in front in that type of situation, you're pushing your luck a bit.
Yeah. Well, you are, and that's what maybe that's where it got lost, but I don't know. Look, Neil makes these decisions, and every football manager does. But
and you better not say that to him, eh?
No, I'll let you off now. Just listen to the podcast. Whisper it in my ear when we walk.
Just a quick one before we welcome Simon Jordan in. The referee against Middlesbrough. What
joke.
Is there a conspiracy, Graeme?
Well, it's just a joke, isn't it, really? I mean, we didn't help ourselves. Marlon Ronio wasting time. I mean, it was so blatant, you know. And
But don't everybody else do it, Graeme? That's the only thing I'd
and
say.
Friend was going to be worked up because
Don't say
he has
Friend.
this. He has this.
He's no friend of ours.
Well, no, he has this authoritarian sort of stroppy little attitude, doesn't he? Really, so he was gonna.
A bit like you at times.
Well, no, I've tried to. not with you anymore, Joe.
No, we've worked out our
Yeah,
differences.
we've worked
Just
out.
me.
I'll tell you, I 100% agree with Neil at the end, though, because he played 7 minutes after 5. And when that ball initially went into the box and he got headed out, that's when he should have blown up. If it had got flicked on and bounced around the box and went in...
You wanted Kevin Friend to blow up?
Exactly, Joe. I had a stick of dynamite ready on him. But you know what I mean? It got headed out, it got cleared to a certain extent. That's where my frustration coming about that blow. Because he should have blown up then. Once we cleared it, he should have blown up.
Okay, Ted wants Friend blown up.
Yeah.
Now, next we're going to speak to a pantomime villain, if you will, someone in Millwall's history that has not often been seen in a good light. It is, of course, the former Crystal Palace owner, Simon Jordan, who has many, I don't know if I could say fond memories of Millwall, but he's got many memories and a friendship with Theo. Very interesting stuff.
And we've all had to promise not to call him what we normally call him, Joe, haven't we?
Absolutely. But a warning ahead, I'm sure Simon will use some colourful language. So if there's any kids listening, please send them to bed. Anyway, we'll be right back. You're listening to the No One Likes Us podcast. Welcome to the first of this season's podcast questions. And as this season marks the 25th year that the club have been at the Den, Zampa Road, SC16, we will focus on questions from this era. So here we go. Who has been the longest serving manager at the Den, Zampa Road? Send your answers to studio@noonelikesustalking.com and put podcast question in the subject of your email. That's studio@noonelikesustalking.com. The winner will be selected from amongst the correct answers and will receive a No One Likes Us Talking gift and a shout out on our next show. Lest we forget, the podcast question is kindly sponsored by WePrintAnyGift.com.
No One Likes Us Talking is also sponsored by Gary at Tower Design and Print Limited, Dean Wilson, Independent Funeral Directors at Elton, Bromley and Lock's Bottom, Reliance South East Cleaning Services covering London, Kent and Sussex, Bexley Steel, Power Industrial Estate, Slade Green Road, Erith, and North East Millwall. You can find our sponsors' details online or at our website at noonelikesustalking.com. That is a talking without a G, and No One Likes Us Talking is all one word. That's noonelikesustalking.com.
Welcome back to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast. Me, Joe Amphlett, with the boys, Ted, Graeme and George as usual. And we are joined in the studio by a very special guest. I usually introduce a Millwall legend at this point. That is something that I can't say for this guest. He's not a Millwall legend, but he's someone that's been talked about on the stands and sung about on the stands many times at the Den. It's a pleasure to welcome the former Crystal Palace owner and a huge admirer of Millwall Football Club, I'm sure, Simon Jordan. Simon, thanks so much for speaking to us, mate.
Lovely to be here. I feel I'm going to be enlightened by this Millwall brethren.
You are. So don't feel intimidated, mate. We'll look after
I never did.
So, first of all, obviously, Palace are one of Millwall's closest rivals. Mm-hmm. What was your first experience of Millwall as an owner? How did you first come across them? What was the first game that you were in charge for? That sort of thing.
Oh, my first understanding of Millwall goes back from being beyond being an owner was when Nicky Chatterton went from Palace to Millwall back in the 70s, because Len Chatterton was the old groundsman at Selhurst Park. So I remember, our poor relations in South London always taking the players that we didn't want.
He's trying to endear himself.
Yes, straight out the gate. Yeah. But my first experience was via Paphitis, Theo Paphitis, who was a very close friend. who advised me when I was buying Palace not to buy them, and then obviously started to enlighten me that the Millwall fans called Selhurst Park Shithurst Park, and and called it Crippled Alice rather than Crystal Palace and whatever else, which was delightful for me to then be able to play one of our first pre-season games in my first months of ownership at Palace. So I've walked in the door, and we've got a series of games, and we've got you lot in the last game before the season starts proper. So we go to the new den, and I've signed this plethora of players, including Neil Ruddock. And I got to go to Millwall for the first time and learn my full name. I didn't know my full name until I got there, which was Simon Yorn effing W. Jordan, right? Which was lovely to learn, right? And of course, I then got to hear living next door to Palace, which I loved actually. I know you guys had to take off because it was seen to be inflammatory. But as the guy that owned the football club, I thought coming out to living next door to Palace, Palace, ODF for Palace, I thought was great. It's all part of the banter and ideals. But we, of course, played you at home in that first game at your place in my first ever fixture against Millwall. And I got all of the Millwall fans waving their checkbooks at me, going, "You're going to lose all your money, you're going to do your bollocks," whatever else it was, which they weren't far wrong about. But we got beat 6-0. And
so it was close.
It was a close game. So I'm sat there, like I'm sucking a lemon. And we hadn't played Neil Ruddock, and I just signed him from West Ham. And I went down. I think you had Rhino in charge as the manager at the time. That'd be about right, yeah. And I went down with Paphitis, who was desperately trying to conceal the laughter that was going through him. I went down to the dressing room, and Coppell was down there, and I said to him, "Why wasn't Ruddock playing?" And he said, "Because we couldn't find any shorts big enough for him." So that's my overarching first experience of Millwall, was the delightful reception. But I loved it. I loved the ambience and the feel. Whenever I got there was, I get a load of abuse, but it was never abuse that I was concerned by.
It's what football's all about.
I thought so.
I mean, you were a flamboyant young manager.
Yeah.
Well, you ain't that
Chairman.
old.
Yeah. Not that young anymore.
Sorry.
No.
And
thank you for reminding me.
But what was I've always wanted to know what Palace's perception of Millwall and the Millwall Football Club and the supporters are.
Well, there's two kinds of Millwall supporters. There's the ones that I saw in the Birmingham City playoff final, which I went to support Theo on, that behaved outside the ground in such a fashion that was unacceptable, which then brought in the membership scheme, which changed the direction of Millwall. And then there's the die-in-the-wall Millwall supporters that go to their club to support their club and go in such a way. And now I would always, because it suited me, looked at Millwall as a smaller club to Crystal Palace. And I had to suffer some of the comments that, when we got promoted to Premier League from Theo, that we would survive in the Premier League for 3 seasons, autumn, winter and spring. Right? And the bastard proved to be right. But it was always, I suppose the answer is I saw them as a smaller club. And because of my relationship with Theo, there was always a competitive feeling between us that resulted in ridicule or vitriol. I didn't see them as equals. Now, that's not because I'm an elitist or because I'm a bit pompous. I just thought Palace, with the chances that Palace had that Ron Nodes didn't take in the late 70s, when we had 50,000 fans coming to Selhurst Park, with Venables' introduction, with Malcolm Anderson's introduction, there was always a feeling that Palace had this great potential to be the Manchester United of the South, which potential is only so good. If you never deliver potential, all it is just potential. Yeah. But I also saw, when Dennis came to me at Palace and potentially was going to come and join us, and Trevor Francis didn't want him, and then he ended up with you guys and managing you. I liked a lot about Millwall. I liked the mentality of the Millwall fans in lots of respects, because I felt that they, I don't always agree with that. No one likes this mentality. If you want that to be your mentality, then that's what people will have. But I always liked the competitivity of the fixture. I always liked the attitude. We bought a lot of players from you, funded your football club for a few years by buying people like Darren Ward and so on and so forth.
He's such a kind man, isn't he?
The benevolent society.
Says it with a smile on his face.
Tried to help you with Timmy Cahill, keep him in London. But yeah, it was that, and of course because of the natural affinity, because you were so close, because of the competitivity more, there was the spirit, and because Theo was involved, there was a great deal of at stake every time we played you. And it always seemed to go wrong for us. So I sit here saying you're a smaller club, but you beat us most times.
Let me ask you, you grew up in Fulton Heath.
South Norwood,
yeah. And you were on schoolboy terms with Chelsea and Crystal Palace.
I was,
yeah. You got your business acumen probably from the pocket phone shop.
Yep,
you
did
very well.
Yep.
How did you view about getting hold of Palace, and did you have any business ideas of how you were going to be a chairman of a football club?
I just saw the product exactly the same as I saw any other product. I wasn't emotively invested. If truth be told, my father was more keen for me to buy Crystal Palace because he'd played for them than I was in buying it. I just sold a business. I was young. I was 32, and I thought, actually, football. I have a personality. I like football. I played football to a relatively high standard. I have a father that was a former professional footballer. But I also felt there was an opportunity there to build something that would engage me and interest me. And I'd come out of a business that had consumed me, and I felt that football may consume me too. It did, but for different reasons. The consumption was something different. And I looked at it and thought, well, I'm not interested in being an autograph hunter. I'm not interested in the romance and stardust of football. I'm interested in building a football club that has substance, that I can be proud of, that the fans that support the club can be proud of, and I can achieve something with. So if you look at what I didn't do, there was a lot of what I did from the get-go which was very alien to football. I wasn't interested in the bullshit of managers behaving in a certain way. That's why Steve Bruce got injuncted straight out of the gate. I wasn't interested in players being barrack room lawyers, and I had the courage of my convictions to say it. And I also wasn't interested in having a relationship with my players, as lots of football club chairmen seem to want to do. I saw them as employees, whose relationship with me was predicated upon the job that they did. And that was my attitude, and I wanted to drive the commercial front. I wanted us to be a very effective and forward-thinking business. That's why we brought in things like Team Card, which was a digital smart card system to control the way people came in the ground, but also, more prevalently, to be able to understand how people bought things, what sizes they bought, so we could market to them, and we could understand how people came in, what time they came in, so we could tailor our commercial offerings. I wanted every aspect of the football club to be lean and effective, but I wanted it to be aspirational and to exude ambition. That was also my downfall to some extent, because when your grasp is exceeded by your reach, sometimes your ambition will be your downfall. And because I wanted to push Palace, I believed that we could go to a certain level, and we did. But ultimately we weren't able to stay there.
Do you reckon that a football club is a business? I mean, you know, you spend more than you bring in on lots of occasions, don't you? Really, I suppose.
Well, not so much now, because obviously financial fair play comes in and saves people from themselves, saves people from myself, saves people like me from myself. Yeah. You have to speculate to accumulate. Some could be saying that at the front of a marketing campaign, where you put $6 million into a marketing campaign to market a product, you don't know if you're going to get anything back. Okay. But conventional wisdom says that if you're sensible, know what you're doing, you buy players because you're speculating to accumulate. It's how far you speculate and how much you accumulate along the way. Football now has become... The argument was, when I walked in, the best chairmen were the ones you'd never heard of and no one wanted to hear from anyway. Brian Clough's mentality was that the 2 pages in his book, well, what do football directors know about football, is a blank page. All of that is bullshit, because ultimately, whilst you shouldn't know more than your manager, and you shouldn't want to know more than your manager, and if you do know more than your manager, or you've got more of an opinion than your manager, then get him to get his coat and you do his job. But the idea that it's not a business when you've got to pay players 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 pound a week, or whatever it was back in 2000, 2001, so say 5 or 6,000 a week, was still a situation where it needs to be sustainable, because you as a football club, Millwall, Palace as a football club, has to be not based upon the whims of Peter de Savary, Theo Paphitis, whoever else owned the football club during the last 15, 20 years. It has to be based upon an element of sustainability, that it will get somewhere because it can get there, because it's got commercially focused and sensible people, and every now and again people that will prop up and give it a little bit more ambition than possibly its own revenues can generate, but it has to be sustainable. So I do think it's a business, and I always thought it was a business, and it used to be said that it was an ugly word, don't call it a business. Now everybody calls it a business. Now everybody wants to know who owns the football club. Everyone wants to know what the chairman has to say, because it changes, and all the myths about managers that only can manage sides that played at the top level, all of that's nonsense. It's about capable people doing good jobs.
And I mean, you're obviously a bloke with an opinion. Was there any time when you thought, I'd love to pick the team here? I know these players. No. How do you stop yourself thinking that?
Why would you? Why would you have a dog and bark? Why would you pay some bugger a fortune to have him do a job and have him do it for you? Your job was to manage your relationship with him. I had a sales director that spoke to the sales team. I have a manager that spoke to the football players. That's what I employed him to do. If I wanted to speak to the players, then why have I got the manager? There was the thing about football, and people like Sam Allardyce will tell you this, is the moment people categorise you in a certain way, it's very difficult to shake that myth. Millwall are not a club full of thugs, right? But the outside world perception of Millwall is that's what they are. Simon Jordan went in the dressing room once to give his players a bollocking because he was appalled with what he saw, realised that there was no place for him to ever go there again, but was constantly perceived as a football club owner that would want to have his two penneth in the running of the actual football team or the picking of the team. Neither one of those is true. There's elements of information that has some saliency, but most of it is always exaggerated and embellished in the confines of football.
There's also I have to bring this up because I thought at the time, Simon, you've been involved with Palace. I didn't have a lot of time for you, but there was the John Bostock thing where you sort of challenged the hierarchy, should we say, within the FA about the tribunal and whatever that, which I applauded you for no end, because I think that was one of the turning points in football in this country, because it showed a lack of respect to you as a football club and whatever, and we need to get away from that.
It's got worse.
It's got
worse since then.
But you challenged it, didn't you?
I challenged it on so many different fronts. I was the first one to come out, and I'm not patting myself on the back. It's a statement of fact, and actually sometimes it hurt me. I was the first one to call these agents for what they were. Yeah. I was the first one to say to a manager, hold on, you don't get to walk out in a football club when it bleeding will suit you with Steve Bruce and injuncting him. Everyone went, hold on a second. I was the first one to take a manager to court and get him done for fraud, for lying under contract. And those changed the directions of football. They changed the way football managers operate. They changed the way management contracts are drafted. It brought agents more to the fore because agents are getting away with murder. And for some reason or other, it's gone backwards again. Backwards again. And all it was, and within the confines of football, I was lauded and applauded, but none of them had the balls to go and do it themselves, because I just think that in life, you have the courage of your convictions. The problem with having the courage of your convictions, if you're railing against vested interest, they will always have you down in the end. Yeah.
Did that come round and bite you in the bum a bit because you were so forthright against managers, against agents? Were there people who were shying away from you because of that?
I guess so, but I think there is an element of if it's managers that would shy away from me, then because I don't want weak managers. If you ask the managers that work for me, whether it's Steve Bruce or Neil Warnock, even Dowie, who we don't get on, would say that I let them do their jobs. I gave them their heads, and I respected them and demanded of them a good job, and to some extent knew what I was talking about. In the world of agents, well, it's a difficult one, because it's very easy for people like Ed Woodward, for say at Manchester United, to spend the Glazers' money because it's not his. I defy anybody to sit in a room with an agent, and case in point was Timmy Cahill, trying to sign Timmy Cahill from ULOTS, agreeing a deal with Theo, getting Tim down, paying more for him than I wanted to pay for him, then quadrupling his salary, going beyond what I wanted to pay, and then be told beyond all of that I have to pay the agent on top for doing something I didn't want to do at levels. I defy anybody. Anybody. Forget the fact you're in football and you have to adopt the principles of being in football. I defy anybody whose own dough it is to sit there and go, I've just paid him 3 times what I wanted to pay. You've wrung me, you've rinsed me to make me pay him 3 times what I wanted to pay, and now you've got the absolute unadulterated sauce to tell me I've got to pay you for that privilege. I don't care who you are. You can't find the logic in that.
With the benefit of hindsight, though, Cahill's transfer to Everton was probably one of the best bits of business they ever did, really, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, and I think ultimately all I did was sharpen Theo's pencil to get you some more money, and convince Everton or someone else that actually Cahill, someone was going to sign him. There was always this look at Timmy in the 2 or 3 years where he was coming through the ranks at Millwall and becoming a player leading up to the FA Cup final in 2004, where there was an outside look, Championship or League One, Division 1 player at the time, does anyone want to take a punt? When we said, right, we'll buy him, right, it kind of made someone have to stick or twist, didn't it? And Everton took the twist mentality, and what they got was a very good player.
But the way you are, as you're portrayed and as you are today, you would screw everybody. If you were an agent, you would have done your best for whoever them guys were, wouldn't you?
I would have made my player pay me. I would have gone and got the player the salary that he expected to get. I would have worked for who I worked for would have been who would have paid me. I could go into agency now and I could clean it up because I understand both sides of the table. I understand what a chairman wants from a transaction. I understand what a club wants from it, and I understand what a player wants from it. And I'm very good at negotiating deals. But I would feel, and that's probably my undoing, that there is an obligation for the people that I'm working for to pay me. And so I would say to my player, you are going to pay me. I'm not going to make the club pay me, but I'm going to get you more than you think I'm going to get you. So, yes, of course, if I was representing a player, your point is well made. But my point is that if I'm representing the player, then I should be paid by the player. And I was sat in a room where the agent was representing the player, getting more from me than I wanted to give, and then telling me that if I didn't pay him, the deal wouldn't happen. So I just think you can't unless you're in that situation. I can try and create the feel for it. If it's your money, you earned it. You know you're prepared to back people, and you're prepared to go. And you've got some little weasel agent sat there telling you that you've got to give him $300,000. And I say, well, I'm not going to give it. She said, well, get Paphitis on the phone. Let him give it to us. So I got Theo on the phone. You can imagine Theo's reaction. What he said. It began with F and ended in off. So
let me ask you now. Millwall are in a somewhat interesting position now because obviously they've come up from League One. They want to try and get involved with the Championship. And
they're more than involved in the Championship.
Well, yeah, let's look at that because they finished 8th last season. Now, big bids are coming in for their players. Would you, as a chairman, start trading in players now? Is it one time to let a big one go to bring maybe some two coming up from the lower leagues in, or would you say keep your players, try and stretch and achieve, and get a one in from another area, try and meet a deal? Well, how would you handle the position that Millwall are in at the moment?
Well, obviously you've got Neil Harris in there, and you did a good job last year, and it depends upon the circumstances that Millwall find themselves in. If there's the cash call and reality dictates, then you have to take a different set of circumstances. My first port of call would be to ask my manager what he felt he could achieve with the current group that he's got, or more pertinently, if we were going to sell a player, I would be looking to say, well, I tell you what, if I'm going to sell XYZ player for 5-10 million quid, I'll give you 50p in a pound. Can you go to work with 50p in a pound? I.e., if I get 10, I'll give you 5 back. It would always be a quid pro quo. It would always be about what I can give to get something back. So if I have to do this, what can I give you back, and can it work, and can we continue to progress if I do this? If I give you that, will you be able to achieve that? It would never necessarily be an isolated, this is a fait accompli. Unless it was a desperate situation, and then you'd have to bring your manager into the say, well, this is one way or another, this is going. But I don't know if you're in that position. I don't think Millwall are in that position where you're...
We're in a position where we've actually got players that people are coming along for the first time in a long time and offering us, championship money.
Yeah.
And so what Graham's trying to emphasise, I think, is that we're at a bit of a crossroads. Mm-hmm. Do we start taking these fees and maybe get 2 or 3 players for that sort of sum? Or, we haven't been in that position for a little while.
I mean, ultimately, the perspective of the manager must be... What you're talking about is the opportunity for the club to cash in on an opportunity. Depends where you believe the opportunity is. Is there a possibility with this group of players that you've got that Millwall are realistic challenges to get out of this division?
How would you deal with some of the situation? I mean, part of the thing that we were talking about earlier in this situation, is players' heads getting turned a bit. I mean, even with due respect to Palace in the Premier League, if a Man United comes along for one of their players in that, or Real Madrid, should we say, or something, they're liable to get their heads turned a little bit. So if you was the chairman in that situation, obviously you'd speak to your manager about what's going on, but how do you actually deal with that? Because it's always going to be right the way down through the pyramid of football.
Well, it's all relative, isn't it? It's all relative. It's all about the contracts you put them under. You've just seen Palace today deal with Wilfried Zaha by putting him on a 5-year contract. He was originally on a 5-year contract, or had signed one 2 years ago. They've rebooted his contract to put him back on a 5-year contract with probably the payout of protecting the economic rights of the player, i.e. they're going to be able to command big fees for him in a year's time, being at the centre of that 5-year deal. I think you have to find a balance. You have to find a balance between being honest with yourself and where you think this group of players is, and where they're capable of going, and what the overarching ambition was. My ambition was always for Palace to get in the Premier League. So it was, if I felt something detracted from that, then there was a pointless exercise. I don't know whether your current owners have the same commitment to the cause, which ultimately almost makes you a suicide bomber sometimes, because you're going to take yourself down in that pursuit. If they believe that they can get Millwall into the Premier League, if that's the overarching goal of the ownership of Millwall, then why would you take away your opportunity to do that? Yeah. If your overarching goal is to make money out of Millwall, to make them financially competitive in the Championship, and you're happy to be in the Championship, then you take those decisions. It depends where you want to go, doesn't it?
I don't think the chairman, I think his own words are, I haven't built this team to then go off and sell it.
Well, there's your answer then.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at another aspect of this that always must trouble chairman. The wage structure. You bring a new player in, he's come from maybe a flashier club, he's going to want... Do you worry about the wage structure if you pay somebody, a striker, say, 5,000-10,000 more a week or whatever? Is that going to worry you about being a chairman?
No, not really, because you have a budget for your player wages, and the idea is to work with your manager and say, right, well, look, within the confines of what we've got and what we haven't got, we have to meet. If my turnover is 15 million quid at Palace in the Championship, and I want to give £8 million or £9 million in wages for the players, then my average player's got to be on 300 grand a week. Some are going to be on 5, some are going to be on 200 grand. As long as I get to a net position of 8 or 9 million quid, within the realms of making the manager understand the bigger picture without making him a financier. Because managers aren't financiers, they're football managers. But you do want to make them understand the parameters of the world that they're operating in. So no, it wouldn't worry me, because there is an acceptance within the confines of football that there is a hierarchy of how people get paid. And it doesn't matter what you play football as, they will always think they're underpaid, because there'll always be someone further up the pyramid that's getting more money than they think they're better than.
Sorry, Simon, do you think a wage cap would help in this? I mean, we're all listening to wages, and sometimes it gets unbelievable. Paul Pogba's asking for another 200 grand a week or whatever it was. Yep. And as a average fan, and we listen to things like that, I suppose you appreciate that. We think, my word, this is getting ridiculous. And I've always thought to myself, the only way you could ever really stop that is if you put some level. I know it's been tried in other sports where there's a wage cap. And do you think it would actually help if they had a wage cap in the Premier, say, for example?
Well, I don't think the Premier League clubs suffer from having any problems anymore about making financial gains anymore. The problem with the enormous wages is the problem that the Premier League brings to the pyramid is that the trickle-down effect means that players in the leagues beneath them, where the finances aren't so huge, their wages are obviously considerably smaller, but proportionately they don't make sense in the league that they're in. And what happens is average players get paid what we consider in the real world top money, what they consider to be poorly paid within the confines of football. A poorly paid footballer in the Championship now will be on £10,000 a week. Now, quite frankly, within the confines of, if you've got 30 pros on that, you're unsustainable inside a Championship club against your turnovers. I mean, Cardiff's turnover last year was 21 million. Cardiff's wage bill last year was 21 million quid. I would wager yours is probably half of that, if not less than that. And but also, if you've got really good managers, I remember used to say to Neil Warnock at Palace, we got beat once at home by Scunthorpe or someone that we didn't expect to get beaten. We got tanked 4-0. And Neil was on the floor, and I phoned him up, and he said, that's not good, is it? I said, no, not really. And he said, I suppose I should be worried, or you should be worried, Chairman. I said, well, I'm not worried. You know why I'm not worried? Because I got you. That's why I'm not worried. Now, where does the difference become between a manager? Because managers make the difference. The X factor. We can all get bang average managers to do bang average jobs. That's why Pochettino's worth his weight in gold, because he will do a job. Who says that every year you have to go and get a bucket load of players? Why can't you work with what you've got and improve them and enhance them and make the manager coach? And I do a show on Mondays with Gordon Strachan where he says exactly the same thing. Now, he might say it now because he's no longer a football manager. But there is an element of that, and certainly at certain levels you can do that and bring the academy, bring young players through, because you like the young players at Millwall. We used to love them at Palace. When they come out, the young players, it brings they're the ones you love club together
as a football fan.
But as Millwall fans, do you want to see your side in the Premier League? Is that your dream, or do you just want to see a happy, thriving club?
Happy thriving.
The reason
club
why I probably want to see him in the Premier League is it gives the club longevity, doesn't it? Really, I mean,
does it?
Ask
Leeds.
Well, do you?
Ask Forest.
Yeah.
Well,
ask Sheffield Wednesday.
I appreciate that, but you've got to have your financial
ask Blackpool.
acumen. Yeah,
I want to see us in the Premier because I don't think anybody else does.
I've
It's a
always
bottom
thought
line.
that if we get in the Premiership, right, and
Premier League.
we've all been in here around, at the Den a long time. Millwall won't need us anymore if we get in the Premiership.
Well, of course it bloody well does, because you're the heartbeat of the club. You know,
But you have so many jump-on guys, then, don't you?
yeah, okay, but jump on, guys. Yeah, but there's a pulse of a football club, and that pulse is the fans. And if you look at the Palace fans, you look at them now. Yes, there's some Johnny-come-latelys, and there's a lot of them come in because of the sheen of the Premier League. But one of the things that the outside world looks at Palace is a support base. And I used to watch them go away from home. And I used to be so proud of the fans away from home because the feeling and the temperature and the energy that they brought. And sometimes I wanted to strangle the bastard players because they didn't get it. They didn't get it, right? And that's not me being an outmoded dinosaur. I know there was a report on television yesterday about how football doesn't need fans' contribution anymore because they can play in front of empty stadiums inside the Premier League. Well, that's just bullshit, because you can't. Because the heartbeat of a football club is the passion and the energy that's brought by the fans, and that should never be lost. Whether you've got the homogenised fans that come in because they're going to the Premier League, but for me, I grew up supporting Crystal Palace, grew up watching Crystal Palace, but I, because of my nature, just wanted to be amongst the elites. I wanted to be amongst the elite. I didn't want to be an also-ran amongst the elite, which is difficult not to be. But for your club, if the overriding message is that we're happy with sustainability, I think that's disappointing. And I don't think it is coming from you guys. I think you want to you want to be in a Premier League, don't you?
Yeah,
but I think it will bring so many idiots. You see it. You've seen it.
Avoid that.
Well, no, but you've seen it at Wembley. You saw it at Wembley against Barnsley. You saw it against Wigan in the semi-final of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
We're fighting amongst ourselves, or you get these people that don't come every week. They're not I call them the solid 9,000-10,000 that come every week.
Yeah.
You get 35,000 turn up, and where are they every Saturday? So that's my concern, is that they would bring the name of the club down.
Simon's right though, Joe. We'd all want to see ourselves in the Premier because the buzz you get week in, week out.
Of course, I'm not going to say we want it, but I
playing
would
the Premier
worry.
side,
we know about this, don't we, too? Because we were in the old First Division.
We was, yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of problems there, actually. Everybody sort of
No.
wanted to close all the clubs down and say it was shocking. But we didn't have a lot of problems because people buy into the football club. They probably spend more money season tickets and that, and they want to stay and watch a game. They don't want to waste their money. So you do get an increase or a decent an upturn in behaviour. The higher you get, actually, because people invest more in the club.
Simon, before you go, and we've kept you far too long, mate, I apologise. Thanks for your time. Is there ever a time when you, as Palace manager, you looked across to SC16 and thought, they're doing it better than us, I'm a bit jealous of them? Was there ever a case when you thought, we should have done it like that?
Theo would be interested in
this. If
this.
there wasn't, lie.
Theo would be interested in this answer.
Well, there was, because when you got to the FA Cup final, I came to the semi-final against Sunderland at Old Trafford. And tapped Timmy Cahill up.
Still scored though.
Oh, is that who he was running to when he scored?
I came to watch the semi-final, and I remember being so pleased. You're a London club, despite the rivalry. I didn't feel any disliked. I disliked Brighton. I didn't feel any dislike towards Millwall, and I was pleased that you got to the FA Cup final. But I remember sitting there, and Theo said to me, "You're wondering when your time's going to come, aren't you?" And I remember thinking, yeah. And now, fortunately, we actually were running into the playoffs that season, and you got to. I think the semi-final must have been about April, mustn't it?
Yeah.
So we had still some games to play to get into the playoffs, and we were on a run. And I'm sat there thinking, I'm doing my bollocks here. I'm spending players left, right, centre, firing managers, hiring managers, and Millwall have sort of rocked into the FA Cup final, and I've got to listen to him. Right? But I did think at that moment in time, what am I doing wrong? Why are they getting this? And of course, within a matter of weeks, we got to the playoff semi-finals and got to the final and got promoted. And Theo came with me to the Millennium Stadium, and I've written about it, where he sat there when we were beating West Ham 1-0. It's the only time I've seen Paphitis scared, besides having to pay for something. Right? It's when we walked through the West Ham fans at the Millennium Stadium, and our driver dropped us off at the wrong side of the stadium, the wrong side of the of Cardiff, and we had to walk through the fans. And my typical attitude was, "Oh fuck it, I don't care. I'm going to walk through." And all the West Ham fans, Jordan, you're this, you're that. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. But the one thing they hated more on that day than the Crystal Palace owner was the Millwall owner, because they hate you lot like a passion.
I got a feeling you told your driver where to drop.
So Theo said to me, we're walking along, Theo said to me, this is not fucking funny. I said, that'd be fine. And I could see the temperature rising from the West Ham fans, and I suddenly realised that there was a distinct possibility that we might get a good kick in it. But we sat in the ground, and we were 1-0 up, obviously, in the 62nd minute, Andy Johnson scored. And I remember celebrating, and Terry Brown, the West Ham chairman, looking at us thinking, yeah, you've got a long time to go. But with 5 minutes to go, I remember Paphitis sitting there going, you know this is worth £10 million a minute, don't you? I said, yeah, I know that. 3 minutes to go. You know it's worth £17 million a minute. You know it's worth... I said, I fucking well got it. I know what it's worth. So those are my overriding memories of that particular occasion.
It's a great insight into the mind of somebody who's actually achieved and actually gone and been a football chairman, which we'd all like to do.
Twisted mind. Nice to talk to you, fellas.
Welcome to the first of this season's podcast questions. And as this season marks the 25th year that the club have been at the Den, Zampa Road, SE16, we will focus on questions from this era. So here we go. Who has been the longest serving manager at the Den, Zampa Road? Send your answers to studio@noOneLikesUsTalking.com and put podcast question in the subject of your email. That's studio@noOneLikesUsTalking.com. The winner will be selected from amongst the correct answers and will receive a No One Likes Us Talking gift and a shout out on our next show. Lest we forget, the podcast question is kindly sponsored by WePrintAnyGift.com.
No One Likes Us Talking is also sponsored by Gary at Tower Design and Print Limited, Dean Wilson, Independent Funeral Directors at Elton, Bromley and Lock's Bottom, Reliance South East Cleaning Services covering London, Kent and Sussex, Bexley Steel, Power Industrial Estate, Slade Green Road, Erith, and North East Millwall. You can find our sponsors' details online or at our website at noOneLikesUsTalking.com. That is a talking without a G, and No One Likes Us Talking is all one word. That's noOneLikesUsTalking.com.
Welcome back to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast. I'm Joe Amphlett with, of course, Graeme Smell, George Lampey, and Ted Robinson.
Well said, Joe.
Thank you.
Mr. Joe Amphlett.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Ted. Yeah, thanks very much. Oh, isn't it fun that the season's back and we can stop moping about and there's finally something to do on a Saturday afternoon. And at this point in the show, we usually do Grumpy Old Men. But I'm not that grumpy about anything at the moment because the season's back and I'm excited. We'll do a bit... the boys are always grumpy, though, so we'll hear from their grumpy selves in just a moment. But before we go any further, let's bring back one of my favourite ever features from the old show. It used to send me to sleep. It was an excuse for me to have a 5-minute nap. It is, of course, time for...
Here's Georgie.
Only a quick one, Joe. I'd just like to mention our new website that we've done, and it looks very nice. And if you would go to noOneLikesUsTalking.com, and you'll go on there, you'll see quite a nice menu, including Ted's prediction.
Who's cooking?
He's a dinosaur, our Ted. But he's got his Ted's Prediction League in there also, and we're asking you to join that and you put a team forward and have a go each week at the teams that our Ted gives you. So, yeah, it's a good site.
I miss doing that, the old prediction game, Ted.
Yeah, Joe, there's 4 games, Joe. I picked 4 games out. I'm giving everybody an head start because the first 2 weeks I ain't got nothing right.
No.
So
because you don't know nothing about football.
No, there's 4 games. You just, exactly like we used to do in the old show, you predict. Brilliant. You get a point if you get the correct...
This is the one I always used to win, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, hold on. I actually won. I'm a previous winner of this competition myself.
You are, Joe.
Yeah. I was at 3 times.
Can I just tell you, there's a cash prize at the end if you win the league this year.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you get all 4 results, there's also another prize. For
if you go on the website, if you get weekly, there may be a prize if you get all 4. But there's going to be a cash prize for the league winner at the end, which will be revealed Fairly shortly.
Now, on the old show, which are we allowed to mention what it's called? The old show. It was live. It's live.
it was
Of course,
live.
our show.
Yeah.
It was our show, wasn't it? Which
Yeah,
was
it was our show.
which was stolen from us. But
Certainly was.
no one
Is that
likes-
you being grumpy, Joe?
No,
Grow the old
I'm just-
mineral.
Stolen from us, mate.
I'm just winding up.
Well done.
No one likes to talk into a better name anyway. But we used to have merchandise and stuff on that show. George, are we going to have any T-shirts? I want a T-shirt with No One Likes Us Talking on it, with my name on it.
The trouble is you'll have lines live crossed out on each other.
Oh well, we've got to save money by using the old stock.
No,
I mean,
we're going to
yeah.
get all that sort of stuff, Joe. It's all in the pipeline.
Oh yeah, the show's up and running again. I love it. All right, that's is that it, George?
That's
You got any
about
more
it
to
for
say?
me, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Okay, lovely. Well, let's be grumpy then, shall we?
Graham?
Do you want me to go first, Vic?
Well, you're normally up front when it comes to being grumpy, mate. So.
Grumpy old men. These old boys, and they are getting on. So they're getting grumpier by the day. They've got things to get off their chest. Graeme especially is the grumpiest of the three.
Do you know, Joe? I'm a bit grumpy about all this. You know, I used to see with pride that people who couldn't kind of didn't have the mobility skills like old Brian Horn and a few other ones sitting on the blue bus at the start before the game, had a little chat. Now our colleagues on the UMSC turned round and started kicking people off, saying it's our bus. No, you can't have it anymore.
Do they speak like that?
They do, yeah.
Is that a direct quote? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You sound like high court judges, I know.
And now, I mean, I understand there was a bit of a relenting of the first game of the season, but listen, leave the guys alone, really. They
What, that
come
have always
along-
sat on the bus?
Yeah, they've always
Yeah.
sat on the bus. Brian Horn, whether anybody likes him or not, I love Brian.
I love
myself.
Brian.
He was the father of a former goalkeeper of ours, the first division goalkeeper. Show some respect, for God's sake, and let these guys go on. They only have a little chat and a bit of a laugh and share a few views, this old Millwall chat. Let's have the bus up and running for the ones that are less able to move around and want to wait just before the game rather than standing up.
Is
in
that
there.
definitely the case, Graham? Because I was in the interest of fairness, right? So they've not got a right of reply. So how do we know that that's definitely happening?
Well, because that's what we've been told, and I've had a couple of people saying that, oh no, they don't like. Now there was as I say, it relented the first game of the season. Let's carry on like that, and to put and just to add a little bit more on. I understand there's some of these guys who have got mobility problems are starting to lose car parking spaces now. Millwall's an adult club. Grow up. Let's help out our disabled fans a little bit more. That's what I want to say.
I thought you didn't have much to say.
That was good, wasn't it?
Well, if those two things are true and happening, I think that would make me grumpy as well. I think absolutely, if people have been sitting on that bus, and I've been on that bus many times to come and see you guys, and mainly Georgie's there on the bus, I'd come and I'd always enjoy coming and say hello to everyone, especially Brian on the bus. So if these boys have been sitting there for a long time, why should they be kicked off? It should be for everyone that's a fan and paying for a
we
ticket.
all know what it's like, Joe, and Millwall Football Club do ask people to get there early. Right? And getting there early, nobody really wants to sit in their own seat for 2 hours, or some people do, and I've never worked that one out, but sit in your own seat for 2 hours, So, if there's somewhere for them to go where they can have a chat and a thing.
Yeah.
It's painful to watch Brian walk sometimes, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I know what you're saying, Graham. And listen, that blue bus was a focal point, and always will be in the car park. So it attracts people to it, and there's nothing wrong with somebody sitting there for 5 minutes while they're here, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Ted, are you grumpy about anything?
I have got a grump.
Oh, God. Well, that doesn't
Joe,
sound like
it's
you.
nothing to do with Millwall, actually. Well, we've had the World Cup in the summer, obviously, which we all got involved with, but I'm getting a bit fed up. I keep hearing about England, the heroes of England. They bloody lost in a semi-final. They ain't heroes at all. They ain't done anything. And it's a bit of a media rant, really. They build everybody up into these so-called...
Sound like Sam and Jordan.
Well, they do. They build them up to these legends as such
Yeah.
and whatever. The England football team have not achieved anything yet. They got to the semi-final. Great. They've done a bit more than we thought they would. But that don't make them legends. The legends are your Bobby Charltons, your Jackie Charltons, your Jeff Hurst, the guys that won the World Cup. Let's win
You've
the
got to be a
World
winner,
Cup
Ted.
before we get any more England heroes.
Oh dear, I'm going to come back on this.
Oh, no.
Now, I just heard a few minutes ago that we can't disturb our lovely players last season by giving other people coming into the club higher wages. Those lovely players did quite well last season. They got to 8th in the Championship, but they didn't win anything. So maybe
They're not heroes.
Well, they're not heroes, so maybe we should be disturbing them a little bit by bringing in other guys who want to maybe.
I'm not
achieve
against
more.
any disturbance. Where you got that
I
from?
don't. I don't get all the negative stuff about England. I think they overachieved and did very well. I would have, if someone had said you're going to finish in the semi-finals, I would have taken that all day long before.
I'm saying they've done well, Joe, but they're not heroes. They didn't win it. They'd have been heroes if they'd won it. Maybe even Croatia's players might be heroes for getting to the final.
Just say sporting.
Yeah,
heroes.
but
Yeah.
I mean,
You grumpy old son.
yeah,
sorry.
I was
I've got
sitting
to
next
say.
to him. I was fine when I come in here.
Ted, if someone said to you, you can only ever have Millwall or England, what would you choose?
Millwall.
I can't. I couldn't choose.
No, you have to.
I'm English and I'm
No,
a
no.
Millwall fan, so
No, you
Millwall,
can only
mate.
ever watch.
it's like
Millwall or
asking what
England?
come first, the chicken or the egg. I mean,
Millwall, mate.
I'm
Millwall.
Millwall and England. It's as simple as that.
Millwall.
No, you have to
Millwall,
choose one.
Millwall,
It's
Millwall.
life or death, Ted.
Millwall.
I'm going to die very soon.
Graham, you'd choose Millwall, would you?
Absolutely.
Over the
Yeah, well, he's got
country?
Scottish heritage. That's why.
The thing about it is, well, let me say to you, I've been going
Liam
down
Smear.
there.
Have you seen him in his kilt?
I'm going.
No, I don't want to.
I've been going down there since the age of 7. It's my 53rd year this year, so that's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, but you lived in this country all your life,
yeah,
so
yeah, I love it. But
Most
There
of
you
the
go.
people down there
yeah.
hate you, don't
Of
they?
course I do. That's right, and that is what is good for me, really, just to be hated.
if you're going to ban anyone off the bus, make it sure it's Graham, please.
George, England, your country or your club? What are you going for?
If I'm really honest, I think it would be the club.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I like to see England play, and I've been as frustrated as everybody else over the years. But
yeah, but qualifiers are boring and stuff. So
Yeah.
when the tournaments are on, it's really exciting. Of course, you want the country to win, but if it comes to a choice between club or country, for me,
I've got to tell
it's
you,
club.
Joe, the highlight of my summer, without any shadow of doubt, was when England won the penalty shootout.
Oh, amazing!
I mean, that
amazing.
was. I mean, you talk about feelings about football matches and how you go. Like, I've never felt so high. I have watching Millwall in playoff finals. But that feeling was exactly the same there when England had achieved that. It was unbelievable. So. Perhaps they are heroes. I'll give them heroes.
That was backtrack. That was, and I agree, that was a really special moment. That winning that, because I was convinced, and I think the whole country were convinced that we weren't going to win that penalty shootout, especially when we missed one.
Joe, I was.
So they did. It actually almost felt better than anything you've ever felt, didn't it? Just to win one.
I was fortunate enough to be in a pub watching that game, and I've never felt like it was all crammed in there. There were so many people in there. The atmosphere in that shootout, when we realised it was a penalty shootout, it was down as low as it could go. Oh, here we go, we're out of this.
Well,
then we missed one, and then all of a sudden we won it. I tell you, we celebrated like we won the World Cup.
Hold it. Did anybody expect Millwall to win that penalty shootout against Gillingham last night? Particularly when Jed Wallace missed the first penalty.
I certainly
Should have sold him.
I certainly never expected that geezer to take that penalty and hit up the tier. That
hit
was
the moon.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, before we go, boys, let's look ahead to Saturday's game against Frank Lampard's Derby County. Now, I thought that was going to be a tough game, and then look at that result last week when they got hammered by Leeds. They've got a point to prove this weekend, and we'll be thinking, wow, they got hammered there, their confidence will be low, great time to play them maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a good game for us, Joe. I liked our first two fixtures at home, Middlesbrough and Derby. I mean, we're slowly but surely beginning to find out what Frank Lampard's made of as a manager. That was a big shock to him last week, I think. But I fancy us. I do fancy. If we can put in a performance like we did against Middlesbrough, I don't think we've got anything to fear.
I think it's going to be a war. It's going to be a battle, isn't it, really, against them, because they're going to come down. They're going to want to take the points because they were embarrassed last week on their own home ground. I think it's going to be an intense game, and if anybody has any thoughts about thinking they're going to go shopping on Saturday afternoon, then I think they've got to be down the den myself and have a look at this team because I think that's going to be a tasty, tasty game.
I've been a bit happier if Martin Waghorn hadn't come along,
Well,
because
I've got to deal with
that
him.
man does a sort of.
He's quite a decent player.
He's a good player, and he proved it last year against us when we played Ipswich. He's a quality player. Whether he's had enough time to settle in with Derby, I don't know. But Martin Waghorn tends to be a bit of a thorn in our side, and they don't seem to have a lot of height up front with that Tom Lawrence and. And they're a different side. Yeah, there's quite a few decent players down there at Derby. But like you say, Graeme, I think if you, like you was trying to say there, like
I'm nearly
developing it into some like a bit of a battle and whatever. I think that will suit us down to the ground.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, and that's just to add, I think the next two games as well as the Derby game are winnable. Sheffield Wednesday are in a lot of financial trouble at the moment. Haven't been able to bring anybody in. Forestieri is the man you've got to watch there, really. He's a good player. And Rotherham, well, I think we can take something up with Rotherham as well, really. But it all depends how we go into these games, doesn't it, Ted?
It does.
And if we can get bigger crowds, like, the Borough game, then that's all good.
Well, I think that you will get a good crowd for Derby. The one I'm looking forward to, though, and I think we all are, especially with them flying at the moment, and I can't wait to derail them, is Leeds on my birthday, 15th of September.
Same as last year, Joe. They was flying last year when they came down here, and we beat them 1-0 and we should have beaten 4 or 5, So I'm with you, mate. I was actually looking forward to your birthday, really. But
we'll have a good drink.
It was very kind of the Football League to put Leeds at home on your birthday.
Well, my birthday's a Sunday, so I can, the 16th.
Oh, that's
it's a birthday weekend. I make a weekend out of it.
You can start Saturday afternoon and go through to Sunday, Joe.
No, why don't you go on a B now and not turn up until next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, or something like that? Nobody knows where you are, Joe, and that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Why are you being a
Steph will be pleased.
bastard? Why are you being so horrible?
That's what you were planning to do, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, maybe.
You've just told Steph he's playing.
Yeah, anyway. Boys, it's been a pleasure to come back and do this show with you again. It's been a long summer. George is putting his hand up, and George would like to say something.
He wants to go to the toilet.
Joe, can I just, as you all know about Anne, I would just like to thank all the Millwall fans who have been really fantastic, and that's all I really want to say about it, actually.
George, I think we should dedicate this show to Anne today, because Anne was a big part of our lives on Lions Live in the old days, and she would come in and answer the phones when I first started, and she'd bring us Baker's stuff every week, and it's not the same without her. And when she was ill and she wasn't there, it was never the same. So I'll always remember Anne from those early days, and I've got fond memories of her. So I'd like to dedicate this show to Anne.
A lovely lady.
And it was a lovely send-off. George, you did her proud. And, mate, you've been very brave. And it's great to have you back on the show, mate.
It is, yeah.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next month with another show. Hopefully we would have had that first win.
And grumpier than ever, I'm sure.
I'm sure. But as always, thank you for your support, and tell your friends and spread the word. And come on, you Lions!
Come on, you Lions!
We'll see you soon.